I went to his last game on February 13 in San Francisco, and certainly didn't expect it to be this long. When he had the crazy, sad injury that he had, that Achilles injury, for him to have nearly a 2 months absence, it's certainly a huge scare for him and the franchise. So I think that's amazing news that he's back. He gets a chance to play with Blake finally, chance to play with LaMarcus. And, 10 days or a little bit more for Harden and 2 months for Kevin Durant are two different ball games. So it's very important for KD to get this rust off before the playoffs start.
Look, I think it's KD too. I mean, I'd like to see all three of them together at some point, Mark.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At some point, we got 5 games, but maybe maybe that's the plan. Like, you hold some stuff back during the regular season so they can't scout you. Okay, kind of doing that unintentionally this one. But look, James Harden was having an MVP type year. I think he was right smack in the MVP conversation. In his mind, he won it, right? He should win it. I think this probably takes him out of it at this point. He's going to miss 10 days here. This is the finishing kick they needed, that he needed for his MVP case. But the thing about hamstrings, and when you've covered sports long enough, like generally speaking, this pattern where you come back, it's not so bad, you come back, and then all of a sudden 4 minutes in, what happened is you weren't really ready, and you don't know if you're really ready to go full speed because when you accelerate, when you go to that top speed is when you hurt the hamstring again.
Right.
And so if you hurt it once, okay, you can come back and maybe you'll be all right. But if you hurt it again, they got to keep you out a long time because they can't take a chance. If you do it again, now you miss the rest of the year.
Right.
And that's why you have to be so cautious if you're Brooklyn. Actually, I think it's really impressive that they kept Kevin Durant out as long as they did, especially considering how much is at stake for them and how much they need to play together. But they need their guys to be healthy for the playoffs. And so I want to see Kevin Durant out there. He needs to reestablish himself and he needs to reestablish his health. But James Harden is fine. Just
look, I agree with the KD aspect of this, but I'll start with you, Mark, real quick. What do you look at when you see KD's game, an area where you would be worried about? Like, offensively, he's amazing, but I look at his defense and coming back from these injuries being not a challenge, but something that will be a little more difficult for him than it was previously.
Man, he was balling. I don't see anything wrong with his game at all. I mean, if you didn't know that he had gotten hurt previously, you wouldn't have known he gotten hurt. So I think he's just fine. It's just a matter of getting the rust off to me. I see nothing wrong with his game at all. And actually, kudos to him from coming back so amazingly from such a debilitating injury. But I do need Harden back because he's hurting my fantasy team right now.
That's funny. Momo, do you think that he may have any challenges on the defensive end with the limitations that he's had or the injuries that he's had?
I mean, I think it's conditioning, right? So you can only simulate so much in practice and in ramping yourself up. But for the hardest part, and when you look at how Harden got hurt, I mean, you just played that clip, you get hurt when you accelerate, right? You get hurt when you take that step to blow by people. Now, James Harden, we don't think of him as quick or fast, but he is. When he gets by people. And so that's the same thing that Kevin's going to have to deal with when you take that first step past people. That's the challenge, is trusting your hamstring, trusting your body to hold, because that's generally when you see the reoccurrence of an injury.
All right, let's move on to the Warriors. They overcame a 10-point deficit in the fourth quarter to beat the Bucks last night at Chase Center. Steph Curry battled through the tailbone injury. Maybe he took my advice with those padding that I showed the other day here on the show. He dropped 41 points, more than double any other Warriors player. To be fair, the Bucks were without Giannis last night. But, Mark, you were in the building for that game. What was the significance of that particular win for the Dubs?
Oh, man, there was such a huge sigh of relief for those guys. I mean, obviously, Giannis didn't play, but Steph Curry and Steve Kerr gave each other a hug that's similar to the hug I'm giving my friends after that have been vaccinated like me, and we've seen each other for the first time over a year. Like these long embraces, man. And so it was huge for them because they were certainly down and out after their road trip, their horrible road trip. And they come back and they have some winnable games ahead against Washington, Houston, Oklahoma City, and Cleveland, and for the next 5 games. So right now they're 24-27, but if they could jump off of this win, perhaps they could get back over 500 over these next 5 games.
But the Warriors, to me, are one of the more interesting teams in the NBA because they really should just punt on this season, right? I mean, you look at Klay's hurt, Steph's got a tailbone. Like, why are you pushing yourself to just make the play-in tournament and probably lose in the first round anyway? Even if you make it out of the play-in games. But they made a tremendous financial commitment to when they took on Kelly Oubre, and he was the replacement for Klay Thompson. They had a chance, George, to get off that financial commitment. They had a chance at the trade deadline. They were offered a very good package by Brooklyn. It would have been Spencer Dinwiddie coming to Golden State. Would have saved them $32 million. $32 million.
Right.
Okay? They said no. They still want to win this year.
Because they want to make the playoffs.
They want to make the playoffs. And they also believe that they can either keep Kelly Oubre or they can do a sign and trade. They've been doing that every time somebody tries to leave them as a free agent. But that's an organizational philosophy. But that's a huge financial investment for a team that doesn't have fans. That's not bringing in any money into Chase Center.
In a brand new building, they spent a lot of money on. Yeah.
Well, I do think that for James Wiseman, even making a play-in would be amazing for him. I mean, he missed training camp. He didn't have a summer league. So any extra games that he could get at this point, I think is certainly valuable for the Warriors, who expect to be a great team next year. So for them, if they could get Wiseman into the postseason, that is some valuable experience for him and their younger players that could certainly help them next season when they expect to be a power again.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.